Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Developer Dynasty here on our Wolverine Studios Twitch channel. This is Gary, the lead developer for Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2023, coming to you tonight, taking the place of our usual Wednesday night host, C. Jackson Cowart, who is getting a much-deserved break today after finishing up his Draft Day Dynasty series with Draft Day Sports College Football 2023. He will be back next week, I believe, and he'll be starting a new series with Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball 2023. So we'll get a chance to look at that game in our weekly series here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. But for tonight, I am filling in, so you're stuck with me, and we are going to take our first look at Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2023. So as I posted here in the chat, this is just going to be the first look at a couple of things tonight that I want to talk about in terms of the development of the game as it is shaping up. As always, college basketball gets released usually in that February-March time frame every year. This year will be no different. So there'll be plenty of news coming out about the game as we get closer to that date. But I thought tonight would be a good opportunity to kind of talk about some of the things, the design direction that the game is headed, and hopefully get some feedback and stuff like that from you guys here in the chat. So I look forward to a very exciting and lively chat here over the next 30, 40 minutes or so, however long we end up going. I also want to say that I've checked the follower count here. We are just over the 600 mark, so that is fantastic. Thank you, everybody who has given us a follow. If you aren't following us, do it now, huh? Let's build that follower count up for our weekly streams. And thank you as well to the people who have subscribed to our channel. I always appreciate anybody who does subscribe. It helps us out in a very small way. And also, if you are a member of Amazon Prime, lots of people have Prime, you get a free sub every month if you link your Prime account to your Twitch account. And if you give us that free sub, that helps us out even more. So appreciate everybody who's done that. And let's get going. We have a new follower. Thank you for that new follow. And Kid Coffee Black, Daryl Thompson, longtime Wolverine Studio supporters in the chat already. Nice to see you guys. Let's start talking about, we're going to talk a lot about recruiting tonight, basically. And the first thing I want to do is I've got an association set up here that we're going to go over some things with. But one thing to note, so far in the creation of the association, the only thing that has changed to this point, and again, not everything's done, not everything is decided, and certainly not everything has been changed, but the only change that's been made so far to creating an association is that I've taken away the illegal recruiting option. Kind of in the new landscape of NIL, I don't really know how much illegal recruiting is going to be a thing anymore with teams being on suspension and stuff like that. So that part of the game is taken out for right now. Even if you convert your CB22 leagues to 23, it's going to be removed in the conversion. So it's just not going to be a part of the game at this point going forward. I don't know if someday down the line we'll replace it with something along the NIL lines or things like that. I think it's kind of something we got to see play out and how we can, how we can make use of it. But I felt that it really wasn't a thing to do anymore. Turn on the CPU options versus, well, not quite yet. Recruiting as we go. Mason WM 10 first time chat says all I did was illegal recruiting. JK, haha, never used it at all. Hey, I think that was the strategy for some real coaches. So if you did do that in CB22, you have to come up with a new strategy. Bill Dozer says, I never used illegal recruiting anyways. I felt like, what is the point and what if I got caught? That's an honest man right there. Doesn't want to cheat the system. Okay, so in the first day of a new association, everybody who has played the game before is used to the upper left corner saying that it is the buy reports stage. And as you can see, it no longer says buy reports, it says budgeting. The buy reports is gone. So I am going to pull up what you will do now. And we're going to explain this as there's a lot here to unpack. Uh, I felt also in kind of updating the game, bringing it into more modern times, that they're really the point of the buy reports option in the game prior to this was to one allow you to spend some of your budget on doing that, but also to kind of give you specific recruit information. Um, it's not, again, not a realistic thing anymore today when you can go online to a website and find out, for any of the top college recruits, what schools they're interested, what the schools they visited, who they got offers from. It's just it wasn't realistic anymore to do it that way. So that part of the game has been scrapped. That's going to be a major change to the game, because that was a big part of spending the money, and that's been replaced by this budget allocation. So what we've done is, first of all, we've bumped the budgets up slightly for every team. So every team's going to get a little bit of a larger budget. You're still going to have your coach salaries that come out of the budget. You're still going to have your recruiting expenses that come out of the budget. So that's your, the call list, the visiting, the hosting, the traveling to summer camps, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be part of the budget. And then the rest of it is going to be budgeted right here on day one, for the facilities. And this is going to not only make better use of the facilities um, item in the game, but it's also going to introduce a new level of strategy. So as you can see on this page, it's got the amount you're spending on your coaching staff, which in this case was 155,000. That's already locked in. You've got your staff already set. Your total team budget up here, it is 341 for the Iowa State Tornadoes. And there's an expected to spend amount, which in this case is 75,000. This expected to spend amount is directly related to the level of your facility. So in this case, this is a B plus facility. So the expected spend is $75,000. If I don't allocate $75,000, then there's a chance that my facilities will decline next season. So again, you can come through here and spend very little if you want to have a ton of money to spend in recruiting, but you're going to face a possibility that your facilities will be declining. And you can still have the option at the end of the season to petition the board to increase your facilities and make them better and stuff like that. But if you don't keep up with the spend that's expected, then they're going to drop off. So the facilities is broken down into three different areas. There's training, there's amenities, and there's wellness. So for training, money that you allocate there is going to help players maintain or improve their athleticism rating, and also to help them improve their skills on the court. So if you allocate money to training, you're going to help the development of your players faster. And now, again, none of these options are going to be like super boosts and stuff like that and make crazy things happen. But there's going to be incremental increases or decreases, stuff like that. Enough where it's worth it to to strategize and make smart choices, especially for your school. But not something where like you can game this and turn it into some kind of super unrealistic thing. So if you allocate money towards training, that's what it's going to go for. Amenities, the money spent here will provide players with the latest tech, bells and whistles, and shiny objects to entice recruits. So think, like in-house taco stand or something like that. Wall-to-wall PlayStations, barber shop in the facility, stuff like that. Things that when you bring recruits in, you're going to show them these things, wow them, and they're going to want to sign up with your school. So if you put the lion's share of your facility spend into amenities, you're really focusing on recruits as opposed to training, which is focusing on the players that you already have. The wellness program, the money spent here is going to go for staff and equipment to keep your players healthy and happy. This will, if money allocated here is to try to prevent serious injuries or quicken recovery time, as well as to help, lessen negative relationships in the game with players and coaches. Uh, you know, so maybe players, you don't have players who get upset so often or things like that. So three very different specific areas where you're going to allocate money towards of your facilities budget, and it allows you to allocate them based on what you feel is best suited for you. Do you want to focus on your current players and their ratings and abilities? Are you focusing on bringing in new recruits, or are you focusing on the kind of overall mental and physical well-being of your players? So this gives you the opportunity to break that down however you want. Now, the impact of this is going to be a combination of what you spend and the facility level you have. So, I mean, if you have like D minus facilities, even if you try to spend like all of your money on this and have nothing left over for recruiting, which would be silly, but even if you did that, it's not like you're going to be better than, somebody that has A plus facilities and didn't spend as much. It's going to be a combination. So if you have A plus facilities and you have the highest spend of any other school in amenities, then you're going to have the most impact on recruits when they visit your school and they look at the facilities. So you got to think in that direction. How much impact is my level of facility overall to start with, and then what area am I trying to be the best in? So I've just done the AI suggestion, and it's suggesting that I spend 25,800 on training. I've spent 39,560 on amenities and 26,440 on wellness. So the total spend is 86,000, which is more than what I'm expected to spend, which is perfectly okay. You don't have to spend, you know, you don't have to spend, exactly what it tells you to spend, but you can spend more if you've got the budget. You don't want to use all that budget in recruiting. You're not going to spend that much during the year. Then put it into the facilities and try to increase your impact in these areas. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and advance this while I catch up with some of the items from the chat. Let's see. Kid Coffee Black says, "Do you think there should be like an available balance to help people know how much they spend? I see the 341 total. Is that already subtracted the 155 and the 100 from the recruiting?" Nope. On the page there, I advanced it obviously, but it showed you your start at the top, and then it showed you what was allocated to each area, how much you would have left over for recruiting, and how much you're allocating on the facility spend at the bottom there. So it showed you all of that detail, and you didn't have to guess at anything there. And Mason asked, if I get offered from a new program who has a budget of 200 and they offer me 100, would I be able to take a pay cut in order to have more to spend on your facilities? No, the head coach money is not part of that at all. So just think of your head coach money as a think of it as like Michigan State football, where a rich benefactor donated a lot of money to pay for your salary or something like that. Okay, it doesn't come out of your budget. All right, and I want to, like I said, I'm going to advance through a couple of recruiting items or weeks so that we can kind of have a couple things set up. sounds. Daryl Thompson asks, will there be ceiling and floor prestiges for teams still? I remember last year said it was easier for Blue Bloods to improve their prestige if they go down for a few years. Also for smaller schools and mid-majors, will it be harder to improve the prestige? There's no plan on changing how prestige works right now. And for those of you who don't know how it works, prestige is broken up into two categories. So there's a long-term prestige as well as a short-term prestige. So when when you have a season and you play really well that season, have a lot of success that season, you get an immediate boost in your prestige. So even if you're, a smaller school or something like that and you make a really good tournament run, you're going to get an immediate big boost from that because you're very top of mind. Everybody just watched you in the tournament and saw, saw how you did and stuff like that. Whereas if you go right back the next season and are terrible again, you lose that boost because nobody knows who you are anymore. It's a very short term thing. The other side is the long term prestige, where after you've built it up year after year after year after year, even if you have one bad season or something like that, then it doesn't hurt you as much because you've started to build, a long term program with success. Much like a team like Gonzaga, who now everybody expects them year in year out to be really really good. They get top recruits. They're always a team that's picked, to be in the hunt for the title, even though their conference isn't one of the strongest conference or hasn't been and stuff like that. But they themselves have built themselves up into a really successful program. So it kind of mimics the same type of things. Mason asks, this is a bit of a longer question, but I won 5 straight championships at Auburn, and all my players were unhappy. I texted them to try and talk basically every week, but they would just stay mad and transfer. Will that be as common this year? Well, I guess the one part of the facility spend on player wellness and stuff like that might help mitigate that. I guess the other reason is why were they unhappy? So I guess it would have to come down to what was the reason for them being unhappy. Obviously, you built up a really good program there. I don't know if it was a case where it was all a bunch of guys who wanted to be the stars and they couldn't be the stars because there's other guys there. I don't really know what the circumstances were of that, but some of that stuff internally hasn't changed or hasn't changed yet. But the wellness factor will play into that. So that might be a situation where, if you're getting good recruits, no matter what, you might want to put that extra money into the wellness side and see if you can keep guys happy. I'm going to pull up the school info page here because it's been changed around a bit, but mostly so it will show you now into your budget section here. Your starting budget was 341. The assistant coach cost 155. Here's the amount I spent on each of the facility sections, and this number here is where I rank in spending. So I ranked 34 in training, 43rd in amenities, and 53rd in wellness. So you can see, this gives you a view of kind of how much the spending is impacting, so that next year, okay, if I want to be one of the top amenity spenders, spending 40,000 isn't going to be enough in that section. I'm going to have to spend more, even though I don't have the same budget as the very top elite schools. I might be able to compete with them if I underspend in the other two. Mine was a kind of a balanced spending attack there. Extremely high in any of them for doing it that way. But you can see, and kind of make a note that, okay, next year I have to spend more and stuff like that. and then you can see what you've spent so far in recruiting and what you have left to spend overall, like you could before. So this screen will be useful in terms of seeing where you ended up, seeing what you need to do better next year in terms of spending and things like that. Blazer Taz 13S, will the game follow conference movement for future years? For example, USC and UCLA moving to Big Ten in 2024. Nope, it does. It doesn't plan ahead automatically like that. That's not built in. The conferences now will mock. The way things are set up. There the 5 new teams added this year, so there's 363 teams, and teams can move conference to conference within the game itself, but it's not set up to kind of match what will happen or may happen in the future. Agelia, our new follower, says the history tab is a page that tracks team prestige changes over the years. Can we get a similar page that tracks budget changes and facility rating changes? I'm going to make a note of that and see if I can work those in. Okay, thank you. That's a good suggestion. Will these changes will be able to import a 22 league and it be fluid to accept these new changes? Yep, the import date matters. So I'm pretty sure that when you do the import, it tells you that it's got to be on May 1st to import it. So as long as you import it on the first day of the season, it will be set up to handle this new structure because you make all the decisions for your budget and stuff on that day anyways. So it should be good to go. Gerald Thompson asks, can that be an option to alter conference alignments? I'm not going to build it in. There's an option where you can manually switch teams, but not change the size of the conferences because it gets really messy with so many different conferences and stuff like that. Don't want to go too far with that. On the recruiting rank page, nobody is signed yet. It's still really early in the year, but one thing you're going to notice here is this NXT 150. So let me explain. Over on the recruiting page now, you're going to notice a lot of different changes. So I'm going to start right here in the drop down. You've always had this view by region option. Okay, but the next section was all of the reports section that you could buy. So what I've done here is I've created an in-game scouting service called NXT Hoops. So these will be available to everybody. So you don't have to purchase premium reports and stuff like that. You have the option. This is basically like going to this fictitious NXT Hoops website and checking out who their rankings are. So I chose the NXT Hoops 150. This is going to show me all of the information for, what they declare are the top 150 recruits. If I do it by region, it's going to be the top 200 recruits in those regions. So it's really taking the place of what the premium reports did in the old game and giving you access to all of them. So that's going to cover, at least 1,000 of the recruits. So you're going to have a lot of information about the recruits, much more than you did in the past. So I'm going to grab this 150 list, and I can see that Luke Brown, he has a low level of interest in my program already. If I bring up the player card on him, this is all moved around, and you're going to be able to see the rankings of the WSSN, which ranks every player. So every recruit gets a ranking from the WSSN rankings. The NXT Hoops, again, it's 150 national and 200 best 200 for the regional. So you have this information, built in right away for a good portion of the the recruit pool. Now, if you play at a very, very, very small, low prestige college, um, this information isn't going to really help you. But for the vast majority of the schools, you're going to have this new information. Over here, this section is new, the school interest. It's going to show you which schools, he has visited, who his top schools are, and whether or not he has a scholarship offer from any of those. So you're not going to be working in the dark anymore about who's put out an offer, who he's visited, stuff like that, because it's not in the real world anymore. Everybody knows, you know, the kids post it on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that every time they take an official visit somewhere and all that kind of stuff anyways. So, this information that was a fog of war type thing, it didn't feel right anymore to do it that way. So now you're just going to have the information, and this will help you, I assume, make some better decisions. Maybe if you know that his top schools have offered, then maybe you don't offer because you don't think you're going to have a chance to get him. So this is a big change, for this year's version because there's so much more information available to you. I've also worked on the distribution of players by state, so that kind of the top players come out of the states most frequently that produces the top players. At least in the last 5, 6, 7 years or so. Um, that'll be I mean, it was already sort of designed that way. I just kind of tightened it up and freshened it up with new information. Um, so that was a request that was made. There was also one other change in terms of location-based recruiting. It's not based on. In the past, it was based on regions, right? So let me find the help menu. In the past, this region map was kind of everything. So if you were, in the Midwest region, let's say if you were a school in Illinois, it was cheaper to, recruit a player who was in your region in Ohio, maybe than it was to recruit a player who was in the next region, but it was one state over, like Iowa or something like that. Um, that just it was a good thing in theory for most of it, but some of it then didn't make sense as to why one state over would be more expensive to recruit than a state 5 states down or something like that because it was a region. So the regions themselves still exist, for the NXT Hoops regional reports, but recruiting costs and stuff like that will be based on sort of what's within a 500-mile radius or so of your state, as opposed to sort of what state is in your region, if that makes sense. Go back to the dashboard here and advance a couple more weeks while I catch up with the chat. Let's see. Gerald Thompson says, I always felt the premium reports were super needed for me anyways. It was top schools. The best point was the top 10 schools. That's it. I agree. And that was what the point of them was. We just want to kind of make it realistic and have that information available to everybody. Now, a lot of people are saying that they love that change. Will mid-range and clutch scoring be included this year, or will be in 24, getting pro game next week? And that's such a great option. Right now, I'm not planning on doing the clutch rating in here. I may break out the mid-range rating. I'm not sure, but because the mid-range rating exists in the game, it's just kind of lumped into inside and outside shooting. So I might break that out. Clutch rating, probably not. I don't know even if you really know in college like which kids are clutch. So I don't know how much I want to do that here or just make that show up kind of in pro basketball. By the way, if you are planning on getting pro basketball or any of our games, if you were not on our email list, I will let you in on a little secret that tomorrow we'll start our annual Christmas sale in the web store. So, uh, if you're looking to purchase something, tomorrow or the next couple days after that might be a good opportunity to do that. Let's see what else we have. It's changing to recruiting were my number one recommendations for the game. Good stuff. Glad to hear that. Kev BK. Blazer, how does your coach responsible for scout affect the grades you see, or does everyone see the same grades? Okay, that is a different part of the recruiting. So when you are recruiting and seeing these, seeing these numbers and overall rankings and stuff like that, these are coming either from the WSSN rankings or the NXT hoops rankings. The skill ratings that you're seeing are based on what your staff is finding out. So that the skill ratings are not part of the WSSN or the NXT hoops rankings. They just rank overall and give you a number based on where the kid is. So the skill ratings that are scouted are from your staff, your coach that you've assigned to scouting, things like that. We have here. Go back here and do a little more recruiting. Is recruiting more year-round rather than the first 3 months of the year? Are players now able to decommit? Recruiting is year-round in the game, so it's during the season. You can still recruit. That's never changed. Obviously, in the summer, the focus is only on recruiting, but while the season is going, you still recruit. And there's not the decommission process that is kind of in real life right now, where there's seems to be a lot of kids who decommit. It is an option. It can happen. It just happens very rarely in the game. But there's not like a decommit stage or anything like that. So it's kind of a 1 in 1,000 chance or something like that it could happen. Let's see what else. There's quite a few in the chat. I'm really happy with all the chat. Kid Coffee Black, question for the Camp magazines. Is it going to be possible to scroll from the magazine when you have players sorted? It used to be random if you're going to the player card. I haven't touched the camp stuff. I will. I do have some things that are going to get improved there. You can also always go to the magazine screen, and there's the summer camps preview, and it will tell you who's gone to the camps, the 3 main camps at least, and do that. I don't know. Maybe I'll expand that to the smaller camps or stuff like that. We'll see. I've got some list of things for the camps. We get a play creation option like we have in college football. It'll be fun to draw up plays. Right now, that's not on the list of things I'm focusing on. Kid Richard says he wants to say he loves these games, and he plays college basketball 22 pretty much every day. Thank you. Huge support. I appreciate that. Let's see. This guy here, what did I miss? You missed a lot. The replay will be on Twitch, and we'll put it up on our YouTube channel. But huge changes coming to recruiting, stuff like that. King Neb Ohio says, loving the recruit changes. Back to earlier when you had the rankings on the main team screen for facilities. You have both the national and conference rank listed. It would be helpful, especially as conference prestige morphs through the years. Majority of prospects will be committing in September. Have they been spread out through the year? The time that they, commit basically hasn't really changed. The November, there's still the November 13th here where the early signings are, and April with the late signings. They can commit technically at any point in time. It's just that most of them wait and take their time and kind of get in there a little bit. So here on the recruit ranks, so like we're in October here, there's already been a lot of recruits. If I look here, this is what I wanted to show earlier here with this NXT 150. If these players have the badge, it means that they were in the top 150 by the NXT Hoops service. So you'll see here we've had 2 commits, a 3-star and a 2-star. They were not top 150 players according to the NXT 150. Grant Lyons here was 178. So like I said, the WSSN ranks everybody. So even teams who have poor recruits, like Hamilton here, this guy's 802, this guy's 1144. So the WSSN will rank everybody. The NXT ranks 150 nationally and 200 per region. So if they're ranked by that service, that they're one of the better players, as opposed to all these 1 and 2-star players that would not be ranked. And again, that's realistic. If you go to any of these scouting website services type thing, they don't rank every kid. It's the top 150, top 200, top 250, whatever their ranking is. But it's not every kid. It's only the top kids, and those are the kids that people who go to these services pretty much care about and want to watch and pay attention to things like that. So that was an awful lot to take in for 37 minutes. I really appreciate the questions in the chat, stuff like that. There were a lot of viewers for our stream here, which I really appreciate. And again, this is just the first of the developer dynasties that we're going to do. We'll throw them in kind of over the next month or 2, stuff like that. Especially as we get closer to release. The Wednesday night streams will go back to C. Jackson Cowart doing his Draft Day Dynasty streams next week. As for anybody who didn't hear at the beginning, he was just unable to be here this week, so I'm filling in with something exciting, I think. And that's just what we've focused on so far here. The recruiting, is obviously a huge part of the game. So that's getting a lot of love in the early development. There is a whole list of things, changes, other things that are coming. Somebody mentioned earlier that they liked the court that was shown here. The new 2D style from Pro Basketball will be coming to the game. So you'll get that new view, that new play look as well. So there's going to be some massive changes. This is probably the biggest update to the college basketball series, maybe ever, to be honest, with the recruiting changes, the massive changes with the reports going out and the budgeting and the 2D. It's really just a huge update. So I think if you've held off, from 22 or something like that, 23 is going to be a must upgrade because it's just huge. There's so much coming. And for everybody who makes requests and suggestions, I want you to know that they do not go missed or unheard. Point guard, who is the champion of the college basketball community on our forums forever, he tracks them all. He sends me these documents that have hundreds of suggestions and stuff like that. So everything you put out there on our forums and stuff like that, he tracks, he sends it to me, he organizes it all and sends it to me. And I've got a huge list of things which I obviously I can't put in everything, but I go through and pick out the big ones or the most common themes and stuff like that, and then kind of fill in with some of my own changes and ideas and stuff like that. But just know that all of your suggestions are appreciated and heard, and the community has made the college basketball game probably our biggest community and our most vibrant and most active community. Certainly the football games are doing a great job catching up. They haven't been around as long as our hoops games have, but the college basketball community on our site is just amazing and fantastic. And I knew that there'd be a lot of you guys coming out to the stream tonight. So I definitely am excited to get this out to you. And I saw somebody asked about the time frame. Typically, we launch first access at least in February. Sometimes the final release is end of February or beginning of March. Either way, it's always fully released, at least a little bit before the big tournament in March, as that's when everybody's super excited for it. And it's also something you can really play year round. I think it's not so season specific because it's not like about having certain players or things like that. It's just kind of an all year thing. And if you're wondering, yes, you will be able to upgrade your 22 leagues to 23 and take advantage of all these fantastic new features without having to restart the careers that you're working on right now. That is going to do it. Yep, there. Kind of with a shout out to Chris and the rest of CBGM. I know Chris is on a little bit of different time frame now, so I'm sure he'll be excited to catch the stream and kind of see what's in store for CBGM coming in the future, hopefully. That's going to do it for tonight. I have talked as much as I can on kind of some of these new recruiting changes and stuff like that. I appreciate how well these new ideas and new changes have been received here in the stream. I know that kind of once the whole community gets a hold of it, that they'll be just excited about this too, because I think that these are some of the things that were asked for a lot over the last year or two, and I think everybody's going to be really excited to see those changes take place. So thanks everybody for coming out. Don't forget that starting tomorrow on site, we will have our Christmas sale starting up. So if you want to pick up something for yourself for the holidays, you'll get a discount tomorrow and the next couple of days to do that. Or pick up a game for a friend. Get somebody, get one of your friends involved in these games and show them how awesome, a true franchise mode game can be. That is what we focus on at Wolverine Studios. It is all about the franchise mode. So thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season, no matter what you are celebrating. So thank you, and we will see you around real soon. C. Jackson Cowart will be back next week on Wednesday, I think, with the new series of Draft Day Dynasties delving into Pro Basketball 23. And we'll have new news on College Basketball 23 over the next couple weeks. No, Terrell, no go Buckeyes. Buckeyes already lost. No go Buckeyes. Go blue. Go blue. So that'll be fun for Daryl and myself and other fans of those schools to watch at the end of the month with the college football playoffs. We'll have a great time. So thanks everybody for coming out, and we'll talk to you real soon. See ya.